Hello and welcome to the 7th episode of the Mountain Ground podcast. And today it's actually myself, Pieter, and Nicolette, broadcasting from Wales, from Llanbrus, where we met up for the Ultra Trail Snowdonia. So Pieter will be discussing the two new coffees that the Grond is listing. And then the three of us will actually chat a bit about dealing with unexpected outcomes. As this trip has been a bit of a roller coaster, and we'll just give you a bit of a breakdown of what's happened. But to lead it in, Pieter will talk a bit more about the new coffee that you can expect from Grond.
Thanks, Pierre. Yeah, it's really nice to meet at last in person. You know, it's obviously. Yeah, like I said, it's been great meeting in person. So I think we can quickly get the coffees, just have a bit of a chat about the latest coffees that we have in stock. It's been, as you know, it's been quite challenging in the coffee scene, getting decent coffees that we're happy with in stock, and then obviously, making sure that we can consistently supply those coffees. So one of the latest one is the Burundi coffee. So this is quite a nice coffee. It has nice stone fruit, honey flavors, sweet spice. And then I think when I made it for you guys on yesterday morning, we did the Burundi coffee. It had, you can definitely pick up some peach notes and apricot notes, which is, that was really pleasantly. I do enjoy those flavors, so I thought that was great. And there's actually a nice little story behind this coffee. So this Burundi coffee was produced in an area called Murabi Hills, and it was basically 1.5 kilometers from the wash station Migoti. So Murabi Hills is, if it's directly translated, it actually means one who lives strong. And the coffee producers, Migoti Coffee, they've basically built this wash station in 2016, and they basically collect and purchased all these coffees from the local farmers, which is approximately 700 farmers in that area. And then some of these farmers would be as small as like 25 trees, where they can go up to 700 trees or 1,500 trees, and they do produce about 1,000 tons of coffee cherries in a year. So they're really making a difference in the community, and it's really nice that we're able to stock one of their coffees. And that's obviously good for local economical stimulation, with more than 250 temporary workers, and during the coffee season, which generally runs from March to June. So for this coffee, this is a nice washed coffee, and then it's been sun dried. It's the Veritol is a bourbon, and then it's at altitude of 1,800. So the altitude, I don't think I really had a discussion about altitude, but basically it slows a bit of the growth of the bean, and develops those nice and complex flavors. So very excited about this one. And then last week we had a bit of a chat on the shot in the dark. So we got the shot in the dark coffees from Tanzania, and it's basically the coffee. It's a bit of a unusual Tanzania, but its origin is from a place called Kongi Estate. Also washed and sun-dried coffee, and then it was produced at 1,650 meters above sea level, and the Veritol is a Kent. And we're still roasting a few, but we have put our latest roast on the website for you guys to purchase, and we would definitely like some feedback. So if you buy a bag, give us a shout, reach out to us. We are hoping to get a good result at this year's Shot in the Dark. And then, we just want to say for Pierre and Nicolette, so we'll get to the backdrop of what they've experienced in the last 2 weeks, and then you'll appreciate, how extraordinary people they are to bring those coffees to me in Ireland when, packing space and everything was so limited. I think that's it from the coffee side. I guess you guys are all quite curious to know how the Snowdonia race went down, and to hear the last 2 weeks ups and downs in the life of Pierre and Nicolette here from Mountain Abandon. Pierre, let's start with you, since you've been the first one to get across the seas.
Yeah, so it was a bit of a, yeah, like I said in the intro, it was a bit of a roller coaster of a trip. I guess the start was just the visa applications, and with the priorities, I guess, rightfully going to the Ukrainian issues. I think all the visa applications just take so much longer, where usually it's 3 to 4 weeks, and I got my visa after 4 weeks, and Nicolette was left in suspense a bit longer, but she can talk more about that. So basically, but then obviously for Pieter, we wanted to bring some coffee, or Frederik messaged me and asked me if I can bring surprise Pieter with some coffee. And I was like, how much space do you have? And the plan was to rent a car when we got this side and everything. So I said, no, load me up. I'm bringing like a big 75-liter backpack, and I should have quite a lot of space. And bro, I just had like a kg or just over a kg of coffee for Pieter. And either way, I ended up getting to Scotland by myself, not renting a car, and hitchhiking a lot of this time with my backpack that was weighing quite a lot of it was, yeah, so but at the end of the day, like, Nicolette didn't get her visa at the same time I did, but then our flights came up, so we had to, it was just really expensive to extend flight tickets, so it worked out cheaper for me to just head over. Felt a bit guilty about that, but got on the plane, and I spent a bit of time in Scotland. Managed to summit some peaks and some Munros in the Cairngorms, Ben Macdui and a couple of others, Cairngorm itself as well. And then I headed over to Ben Nevis, did the really cool Arete route up Ben Nevis. And then Nicolette can talk to you more about her visa processes. I think it's much more interesting than mine, or a bit more dramatic, to be honest. Yeah, we all know, like, Nicolette's a very dramatic person, so she'll spice it up accordingly.
Yeah, and thanks so much. It's nice to be here, sitting in a little cafe on a lake in Landburus, Wales. And so, sorry for any background noise, but it's quite entertaining up here. And so I had to wait an extra week or 2 weeks more than Pierre for my visa, and then he traveled for a week by himself while I sat back in Joburg refreshing my visa application page every few hours. And eventually at 6 weeks on the dot to the day, I refreshed and there was a change in my status, and I got an email shortly after saying that it had been processed. And I went a little bit prematurely to the visa application center, and while I was standing in the queue figuring out how I was going to argue with them to get my passport because I hadn't been notified, I got the email to say it was ready to collect. So that worked out quite well. It was 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I had all my bags in the car, straight to the airport. Last minute, got a flight that evening at 8:30. And the next day, which was Wednesday before the race, I was landing in Scotland. And Pierre picked me up. So we started traveling south, had a good first night camping. And the next day we stopped in the Lake District, went to the Innovate store, which was really nice just to see their setup there. Obviously they're one of our brands for shoes. And then arrived in Landburus on Thursday, the day before the race. Stayed at a really nice little bed and breakfast that did some good pizza, so we loaded up on the carbs the day before. And then
I tried to convince them to do a barbecue there.
Yeah, we declined the meat option the day before the race, saying it would be a little bit heavy for our stomachs, but the carbs went down well, really good pizza. And then, Friday morning, 11 o'clock, we were set to start for our 100-miler. Pierre's second was meant to be my first, but Pierre will talk you through a little bit of what happened on the race.
Just before we get there, I must say I would pay really good money to see Pierre's face after a week of traveling as a solo, traveler, and then at last Nicolette arrives ready for action, and now your companion joining you for the rest of the adventure. I think that must have been quite a big moment for you, Pierre.
Yeah, it was, especially in theory, I enjoy traveling a lot, and I don't mind traveling alone, and I've traveled alone by myself quite a lot. But this time it was definitely different and very weird. I was doing all the things that we love to do. I was wild camping in Scotland. I was, just hiking for 6-7 hours the whole day, and then getting to a loch and, stripping down, swimming, and not sure if that was legal, but, it was fun. There was no people. And then just pitching the tent and camping, and it was quite... Yeah, I wrote a blog post on that a long time ago called Solitude, and it's that quote from Into the Wild, like, is happiness true if it's experienced by yourself, if it's not shared with someone else? And I definitely felt a lot of that, and there was a lot of difficult times, actually. Like doing a lot of fun stuff, but not sharing it with, my adventure partner. Anyway, not going to get all emotional here now. The race, Look, it's a tough race. It's 165 kilometers, 10,000 meters of climbing. It's something we don't get in South Africa. Like, there's nothing close to it. That elevation gain, the weather conditions up in the north is really... I experienced that on Ben Nevis for the first time, where the winds were ferocious. It's in summertime, but, my knuckles went blue from the cold, and horizontal rain literally because of the winds. And the underfoot conditions, if you're low down, it's in the bog, and when you're high up, it's very rocky, very scrambly, especially the Slanbrus, the Northern Wales Snowdonia Park area. It's known for its slate, and the race started from the Slate Museum. The slate is really tough underfoot, either slipping and sliding or actually like really sharp. So yeah, it ticked all the boxes for us. Like Nicolette, her first 100 miler, like, you want it to be a memorable one. You don't want to come at a certain point in the race and just go like, because at some point you're going to ask yourself, why am I here? What am I doing? Why am I actually doing this? And then you really need a deep intrinsic reason to be here, because you have to answer these questions. And yeah, for us it's not just another race that we can come repeat next year if this one doesn't work out. And so I guess that kind of leads into the topic, is how do you deal with these unexpected outcomes, or what expectations do you have placed? Because usually in a race you have your A goal, so best case scenario, and obviously when you achieve that you're super stoked and you're loving life. Then you have a B or a C goal that you fall back to if things aren't going your way, but you're still happy with the outcome at the end of the day, because you've achieved the objective. And then obviously you have the worst case scenario of a DNF, and you kind of process that and you bleak about it and everything. But then we had quite a weird outcome that you don't usually plan for. You don't prepare mentally for that beforehand, and the process of dealing with it was really, really weird, actually. But I think we'll run you through the race and then we'll get to that point. So Nick's share a bit about the start and just how you found the beginning stages of the run.
Yeah, so like I said, we started mid-morning on Friday. It was a small field, relatively speaking, for the 100 miler. I think there were a total of 7 female starters, and obviously more guys. But it was a little community that was heading off into the mountains, and we had really nice weather. It was overcast, cool, perfect for running, really. Started off with a 5 kilometer long ascent of Snowdon, the peak, and then we dropped down the back end, and we were going really well. And Pierre and I, the plan was not to run together, but because we do train together, obviously our pacing is fairly similar, and there's no rush in a 100 miler to get going from the start, or to break away from anyone. So we were taking it relatively easy and running together. A couple of other guys joined us on and off throughout the first section. And yeah, at about 50 kilometers, the weather started to turn a little bit. So we got some more drizzle, a little bit more wind. And then after I think it was the fourth aid station, then the weather really turned, and the rain started to come in heavily. Wind was howling, and we were running along this lake, and it was difficult to tell whether we were being splashed by water blowing up from the lake or rain coming in from the other side.
And I just need to say, like, while all this was going on, I was I didn't do the 165 mile like, so I was having like a little bit of a look around here in Lamberis and traveling a little bit around Wales, just constantly refreshing that tracker. And the guys are doing so well. Like Nicolette, I think you were at one stage like obviously first lady, miles ahead of the rest of the pack, and then Pierre, you were third or something, I think, overall. So I'm like, they're keeping the South African flag flying really high here. Back in the ranch, like they were going through all this weather changes and all the rest, and and I think you were going to say how things then developed.
Yeah, so we got into this little hut aid station after this lake section, which we'd run in our shorts and t-shirts and only put on a thin waterproof somewhere near the end, thinking, oh, maybe it's going to get a bit cold. So we got to this next aid station, and it was just a little gazebo that was busy blowing away, but we decided we'll kit up, so put on some dry thermal gear and our bigger Black Diamond waterproof jackets on top, waterproof pants, and then we set off again for the next section. It was interesting to see how quickly the Brits got their waterproof gear on, though. I think they took one look at this weather and realized, yep, it's time for the extra layers, and they were super quick out of that one. But we followed them out, and we went up into the next section, which was probably the most sustained ridgeline running, so high altitudes. We got up onto this ridge and beautiful lake far below on our left-hand side, bit of like Dragon's Back type running from Skyrun, and this narrow knife edge ridgeline. And then we just went up and down over this, and we started to tag quite a few peaks, but all the while the weather was worsening, and from the one side the rain was just hitting us, the wind picked up even more. At one stage we could barely move in a straight line, like you were forcing yourself into the wind to move forward, and it was a little bit scary, and we were trying to navigate. We had all our gear on that we had with us at that time, and still we were losing temperature. I think my head was just down, and I was grateful to have Pierre with me at that point. I mean, it's a little bit different being in an unknown mountain range and dealing with weather like that. But I was just following in his footsteps, and he was leading us, checking markers, checking his watch. And the marshals up there, I must say, they were amazing. They would pop out from behind these little rocky shelters, no tent or anything, but clearly concerned. I mean, asking us, how was it? How was the previous section? What's the wind like? And on the last peak of that ridgeline section, the guy said to us, the next aid station is down at the bottom, but we'll just have to see what the plans are from here. And we realized that maybe these conditions were normalish for us running in tough situations in the Drakensberg, but your average competitor might be taking a bit more strain. And unfortunately, when we got to the next aid station, in good spirits, because we'd come down and we'd managed, and it was we were actually enjoying ourselves, but they said to us, no, the race has been cancelled and called off, so everyone is being removed from the course at the aid station at which they are. And we were sitting in third and fourth position, myself and Pierre, with the two race leaders having come through only half hour before us at that same checkpoint, but they had also already jumped on a bus and were back off home. And that was the very unexpected and unprepared for outcome for our race. So big disappointment in terms of not completing my first 100-miler, especially since I wanted to do it before I was 30, which is a couple days away, so I won't be squeezing in anything else before then. But at the end of the day, the race organizers made the right decision. Conditions were tough, and you have to put safety first for the athletes. And when we into these races and these mountainous environments, you are not in control of everything, and you need to account for the fact that weather and conditions may cause things that you're not in control of.
Yeah, and that it was weird. Like, you come in, and like I said, we used to moving at altitude in the Berg, and it's cold and it's windy and it's very remote. Here in a race you do feel safer sometimes, but there was definitely, when we left the mountain hut, the little aid station, I think it was checkpoint 4, before we went onto that ridge line where things really went rough. I know a few competitors turned around and headed back for the mountain hut, and we made a lot of time on people there, I think, just because we moved so well as a pair, trusting each other, always checking up on each other. And we also didn't take our lightweight race waterproofs when we checked the weather before, and both of us had our Black Diamond Stormline set. And that for me was a big difference. It was, I was thinking about the gear I'm using and the gear that I chose to take on this. And yes, you have to have good shoes because your feet needs to be, looked after. But you can hobble it in, it's not like life-saving, if you want to put it that. My watch worked, I've got the Sunto 9 that works beautifully for navigation. It's got a good battery life and everything. But then again, it is a marked route and I can get to the finish without it. But the thing with the Black Diamond, the Stormline set, or any equivalent of that, it's not a race waterproof set. It's a proper mountain waterproof set. And this is a mountain race. And I felt super safe just having that gear on me. And that was one of the big lessons I learned in this. When I looked at the profile more and I looked at the conditions and everything, I realized this is not so much of a race. It's more of if you can outlast and outsurvive the other competitors, you can do well. And that showed in the short section that we actually did move. We didn't start very high up in the field, but we ended up 30 minutes behind the previous winner of the spine race, a really hardcore fell runner. And I was really happy the way we moved it in the end, and how well we were looking after ourselves, actually eating and drinking properly. And yeah, it was a very tough moment when they said, yeah guys, it's kind of this is it. And especially when they said, and you guys were moving so well, you were basically joined for third and fourth. Yeah, it was a bit of a tough pill to swallow because it's out of your control, but you couldn't argue the call. The call was 100% spot on. They had to cancel the race, because if we had to now still carry on into the night in those conditions, the winds were 80 kilometers an hour. I haven't experienced wind like that before. You've blown off your feet. Running downhill was almost at the same pace as a walk if you're going into the wind. It was really wild. But that is why we love mountain running. It's you learn so much more from yourself when you're being put in conditions that you can't control, and you have to control the controllables and let be what is. So it's a very growing experience, and I loved every minute of it. But anyway, let's fast forward a bit then, because Pieter was here to meet up with us and come all the way from Ireland.
All across the ferry.
All the way across to the ferry. And we had some good coffees, and just so nice to catch up with Pieter. And he was here to do the 50k race. And then a bit of an unexpected turnaround for us as well. They asked us, well, now we have the option. This was about 10 o'clock at night. Well, now tomorrow you can either start the 100 at 4 o'clock in the morning, or you can start the 50k at 9 o'clock. So we thought, I wasn't too keen, to be honest. But Nicolette's no, we'll do the 50k. So next morning we were lining up with Pieter, and Pieter can tell us a bit about the 50k.
Well, the 50k always starts with a great cup of coffee. So making sure we all have our caffeine in. We obviously, it was very different from a race start in South Africa. So we only started at 9, so it was a very leisure start to the day.
So nice.
Yeah, it was really it is quite nice. So we were just chatting away, having a very chilled morning, and then I was very disappointed for the guys. I was actually just refreshing, and I saw this message come up with unfortunately due to extreme weather conditions, I was a bit confused, and then Pierre had his UK SIM card, which seems to be on a different planet. I couldn't get all of them, but eventually, going to pick them up. And but on the flip side, then we had the opportunity to do the 50k together, and that was really, from that sense, I guess, it was nice for me in the sense that, you know, I had some companionship, but you know, like, it doesn't change. Like, it was heartbreaking to actually, you know, to hear that, you know, their primary goal didn't work out. So yeah, we started the race. I initially thought we would just try, because I've raced a few times here in Ireland, and, you know, I knew somewhere something is going to happen where there's going to be a lot of a congestion. So you know, I started out, and when I turned back, like, I couldn't see Pierre and Nicolette anymore, and, you know, so I just continued on my own little adventure there at the front, struggling from the get-go. But you know, in contrast to perhaps Pierre's experience of the bogs, like, I do like those muddy experiences. I probably have a bit of a broken childhood or something, but yeah. So the first part of the race was there was a fairly few boggy parts, and then yeah. So nice scenes. Like, we were quite lucky because you know, the weather did actually clear up a bit, and we did have some really nice running conditions, and then, you know, we did go up Snowdon, and you know, we had some really nice views across. At the top of Snowdon, it was, I don't know, like, it just always has a bit of a jacket over it, so, you know, you're just running in the mist there at the top, or in the cloud, and yeah, some nice gnarly downhills there coming off the. What was the little section after Snowdon? Was that is that what they call Dragon's Back? I think that's what they call Dragon's Back.
Yeah, if there was one place where they would call it Dragon's Back, it's probably that. It was like a nice little scramble, and the downhill was also like really steep, and there was really cool to see like how well we could move over those like technical conditions. Some people just really. I think that was. Yeah, that was I enjoyed that a lot. That was by far the favorite part of the 50k.
Yeah, I was thinking, yeah, maybe the South Africans will start getting a reputation for being on par with some of the alpine downhillers in Europe. So yeah, that was a good section. But here's the kicker. So Pierre, tell us exactly like how did your race start and how did your race end? Like, this is extraordinary. Like, everyone needs to bear in mind, like, you know, they've done, how many kilometers did you do the previous day? 68. 68 kilometers with 2,500 elevation gain?
4,000.
4,000. Okay, 4,000 meters elevation gain and 68 kilometers already on the legs. Okay, so just bear that in the back of your mind.
Yeah, so starting the 50k, I'm afraid to say my legs were tired. They were sore. I think Pierre was a little bit better off.
You are human.
After all.
Yeah. Pierre was a little bit better off than me, but he was very kind. He decided not to just abandon me and see if he could run with Pieter from the start. So we stuck together, and yeah, it was quite a difficult situation to convert this solitude and remoteness of the day before into being part of a pack of 700 plus runners. And you know, there's 20 people in front of you, 30 people behind you. Everyone is chatting, it's loud, it's noisy, it's a great vibe, but it's completely different from, you know, what we had in the 100 miler. And it was quite difficult, I think, to process that and make the mental switch. And with that, you know, the physical fatigue, obviously, from the day before. So it took me quite a long time to get going, as in like 3 to 4 hours. And so, yeah, I just ate, actually. So for the first time in a race, I think I decided I'm just going to eat everything. The aid stations were pretty good, so we stocked up on lots of chocolate.
What was your favorite? Like, if you look back now on your eating spree, what's the one thing that stands out?
The chocolate-coated digestive biscuits. Pierre had some on the 100 miler, and he said, "Oh, these are good." Like we had normal digestives, and he said these are much better. I thought, okay, well, I'll give it a go, and yeah, he was right. So, but digestives, Oreos, sandwiches, cheese, chips. Interestingly, no sweets or chocolates at the aid stations here in Wales. I don't know if that's a British thing. It's definitely not like South Africa, but fortunately we'd stocked up well at the supermarket the day before, thinking, perhaps it's different, but not really expecting it. So we were quite grateful that we'd had the foresight to purchase a lot of fruit pastels and millionaire shortbread and chocolate brownie biscuit things and you name it, we'd bought it and we ate it. But yeah, so we got to the halfway mark, the 25k aid station on the 50k, and for the first time in that day I actually started to feel like I have some energy and maybe I do have the mental capacity to get through this thing. And we started to pick up the pace. We were hiking a bit faster on the climbs. I think other people were maybe fatiguing, and we started to just make up positions, and we passed, I don't know, I think I went from 20 something ending up in 5th overall for the 50k. And the last descent off Snowdon Peak, we were right at the bottom, chilling, chatting. We had about 3k's to go. And this guy came racing up behind us, and he said, "Oh, the next lady is just there, just behind me." And I said to Pierre, "Hey, come, no way she's gonna catch us after we overtook so many ladies coming up the back of Snowdon." So yeah, we picked up the pace, probably ×2, and
×5.
and we made a bit of a dash for it for the finish line. And with about 1k to go, Pierre shouts, "Hey, Piet, ons kom vir jou."
I thought it's a voice from the afterworld coming. I was absolutely spent, and my moral was completely broken. Like this lady, there was one turn, and I'm like, okay, it's 50k's. Okay, so it's 300 meters to go, and she says, "There's only 1.5k to go." I'm like, okay, you don't understand. So yeah, it was really nice to hear Pierre from the back. But when they flew past me, I thought for like a second I'll stick to them, and then I was like, nope, that's not happening. That's not happening today. But yeah, I was just like, it just shows you that's phenomenal. I mean, Nicolette, you could just say, look, you gave the other people a head start. That's really. That's really what went down. Nicolette was just giving the other participants a bit of a head start, and that's absolutely extraordinary. And how did you guys find the 50k? Was it did it live up to your expectations before coming to Wales? Did it exceed it? In terms of not necessarily the event, but the terrain and the mountains, and was it what you were looking for?
Yeah, if you specifically asked the 50k, so the 50k, for us, there's just too many people. In the beginning at that style, there were 2 styles that we had to cross, and we waited about 15-20 minutes to cross it because there were 750 people, and they wanted everyone to cross on one ladder over a fence in the first 2k's. So they should have planned that better, to be honest. But because we were all just standing there, and 750 people is a lot. It's a lot. And some of the trails, I think, gets worn quite badly because it's so wet, and now you have all these people going over it. But once the field spread out and those scrambling sections where we could get past people and a lot of the climbs, then yes, from a terrain point of view, and what we experienced on the 100 miler. The 100 miler we were running with, and you have the time to meet people. There was a really cool French guy that we spoke to, and he's done the 100 miler on Reunion Island, and there's another British guy that was always kind of leapfrogging. We were kind of passing him, and then he'd come up to us again, and so you could actually meet people and talk to them nicely. And the terrain on the 100 miler that we experienced was amazing. It was underfoot. I enjoyed the technicality of it. It was really cool. The 50k, the second half of the 50k especially was beautiful. It was just the peaks we tagged, and with the lakes way down below, and the trails were really good. It was. Yeah, I just enjoyed that a lot. And the weather is proper mountain weather, so you accept it, and it's a tough race. It's kind of it's exactly what it is. So no, we enjoyed that a lot. Dealing with motivation levels and stuff on the 50k was really tough actually. From the start I felt really good, and I felt like I could actually just race this 50k. But then about 10k's in, I just didn't want to be there anymore. Like I don't want to share this with all these people. Like I don't want to run really. And then later you just push through that. And there was one like boggy section where both me and Nicolette sunk to our hips in the bog. So I laughed and I'm like, oh, Pieter is finally getting his bog. And like little stuff like that actually cheers you up a bit. And the climbs, we were feeling really strong on the climbs, and our quads were a bit sore on the downhills. So the climbs we made up a lot of time, and the downhills we just kind of took chilled in the beginning there. And then you start getting into it, and you're really like appreciating not just the fact that you're fit enough to do it, but that you say yes, that you have the willpower to do it. Because a lot of people actually have the capacity to to take part in adventures, but not necessarily, they just don't say yes sometimes to go do it. And I think that's important. We need to realize that, we need to say yes to opportunities that comes our way, or create the opportunities. And that was nice. I just really appreciated the fact that I could be running here with Nicolette, and we can share this passion together. And then, yes, I was in my mind secretly hoping that we are going to catch Pieter. And that's why I try to push at some sections, because I was adamant, like, if we can catch him, like, it needs to happen. Anyway, so it was quite funny when I thought he was long gone. And I saw Pieter up ahead. So it was really nice to see him out on the route. And then to share a beer after the run, because he literally came in like, say, a minute or so after us then. But that was just because Nicolette was sprinting away from the British competitor behind her. But so we shared a beer afterwards and just chatted about the event and just sat there taking it all in. And although you have the disappointment of the previous day, it just showed, to sit and mull over it, and it would just drive you crazy. So when you have these unexpected outcomes, I guess, well, just take action, just do something, do something more. Like, motivation doesn't always just flow your way. Sometimes you have to move, and you have to move forward for motivation to follow and come your way. So I think that's a lesson for me there. It's not just saying like, I was feeling strong, I had a great race, now this happened, it was out of my control, now I can just sit back. It was to say, okay, cool, you'll go do the 50k the next day, and let's go have fun. We've come all this way. Let's see the rest of the route. Let's see more of the mountains. And I'm sitting here with a very, very grateful heart, and just happy to have friends that encourage adventure, and happy to have friends that share adventure with me.
Yeah, I think I can definitely relate. It's it's not only great having friends around, but in this instance, we've always been chatting either over a Zoom. Have we ever actually done a Zoom call? It's always been WhatsApp or...
Our first call ever was, we came off Monkskuil, we came off Grays, I think. And then Monkskuil, and we set up, that was quite cool. It was the first chat with you and Frederick ever. It was probably 2 years ago.
Yeah, so that makes it, that does make it quite special that you can share these things, and we can definitely have a good few laughs afterwards, and some good memories. That last beer, that Topo top
out
top out beer, that was a memorable moment, and making a nice coffee in the morning, and that pizza. The first time we actually met again, we met in person and sharing the pizza, and it's been it's been a great weekend, and I know you guys have a day or two left here, but I hope you experience a last bit, some extraordinary things, and some unexpected things as well, except for the weather.
That's always expected.
Yeah, and just one thing I wanted to add in there, in Pieter's defense, he was quite sick for about 2 weeks before this race, and it was questionable whether he should have been here or could have been here or not. But at the end of the day, he showed up and he went out there, and it's just, a lesson to everyone. And, from our side, things don't always go your way, and you have to just kind of make the most of it. And you will always be rewarded for saying yes, or going out or doing something, even if it wasn't what you planned. So it's definitely worthwhile. And although we only have 2 days left, we intend to make the most of it. We need to take some photos, see some more mountains, maybe do a little walking. Our legs won't be too happy, but we might go and try to climb, if not a peak, just a hill, to get some good views and appreciate the last of the time that we have over here in the UK.
No, definitely. It's been a special. Like, I've always been obsessed with the fell running and the idea of it, and I've wanted to come experience just to see how it compares to the Drakensberg, and it's very similar. The Drakensberg is more remote, it's higher. There's a lot of different things, but the nicest thing to take home for me was that I can move in different mountains, and that we can move very well in different mountains, not just the mountain that we kind of specialize in. And that it's just a nice thing to know that being savvy in the mountains does relate in the same, threat error management kind of stuff that you take in, that helps you even in this race. Like, this race was not just a race, it's a rough one. And anyone that's keen for a proper adventure and not a fast 100-miler, but a really tough one, look at Ultra Trail Snowdonia. I think it can reward you.
No, I think I don't really have anything else to add, except to say, like, you've obviously heard, the immense challenges that you guys faced, but I can honestly say that, the way you've been dealing with it has been quite inspiring. You guys make the most of these situations, and, I can honestly just imagine what disappointments that, you guys went through, but all in all, you kept up, and you just made the best of your situation. So well done for you guys. You're honestly a good role model for everyone out there. Role model, what's that Afrikaans yet? Yeah. So I think on that note, I think we'll end episode 7 there.
Yeah.
Oh.
Thank you.
Cheers. Thanks for listening, as always.
Yeah, you need to do your outro, then I need to add that.
Nah, let's just cut it there. I think no, it's been a nice podcast to record. It's nice to sit and talk. You can see facial expressions, and we can really share some emotion in it. So, remember to subscribe to catch all following episodes. And also, like Pieter said earlier, with the feedback regards to coffee and stuff, same goes for the podcast. Just send us a direct message. Most of you probably have us on social media or emails, and just send us your feedback and what you would also like to listen to in the future, what we can discuss, whether it's nutritional gear or any mindset kind of stuff, different coffee brewing methods. Like, we're not going to go down this rabbit hole now, but Pieter did quite a various amount of coffee methods with us now, and he's like, this is too acidic, I can make it more like this. So he's got a lot of knowledge to share with regards to coffee as well. Anyway, we've run out of time. Thank you for listening, and chat to you guys later.